Warm greetings, everyone. Welcome to today's session on women in architecture. The discussion on women in architecture is about understanding the nuances of being women in the profession, and it is placed in the larger purview of being in the diverse fields of the built environment for those who started their career with architecture education. This is also in the light of looking at the gendered discourses, and also the way decisions are made in the public realm, as well as the decisions are taken up by all genders. The session is conducted with the support of environmental design consultants. My name is Mansee Bal Bhargava, and I will be the host for the discussion today. I'm glad to take up this study, which is part of a longer research with all people who are engaging in practice and pedagogy of built environment. We are also reaching out to younger generation to understand the way they look at their seniors, as well as they look at the way their education and practice will shape up in future. The aim of the study is to celebrate the presence and participation of the gendered built environment, but at the same time also learn, document, and disseminate the journey of several women architects who have really chosen this path and yet not recognized or appreciated for their multi and transdisciplinary contribution in the profession. Through the study, the intention is to therefore acknowledge and appreciate their contribution and bring forth the critical points that need to be addressed at individual level, institutional level, and collective, so that we can understand what makes or breaks or tweaks the career of architects in this country. The study shall also implicitly allow us to understand how different gender maneuver their lives to find their purpose of being in the profession, and also help the gender roles which are present in the current and future generation. The studies also call for action to all to realize the need for equitable architectural profession in order to advance towards more sustainable built environment. It is based on the presumption that profession is heavily patriarchal and masculine, of course, dominated by mostly known men in the profession. Therefore, the idea is to really see how we can engender the profession. We are using the methodology called autoethnography, and in simple words, it means our respondents' life journey and the researcher's pen, which is our pen from my end. The method thus has informal interaction followed by semi-structured open-ended interaction, thus developing a video series of it and transcribing the interaction to make a coffee table book for further dissemination to the younger generation as well as the society at large. We have a very good lineup now of speakers today, and today we are starting the season 3 with 3 young architects, to-be architects, and we'll go straight away with them and inviting all 3 of them first, and then taking very simple questions with them as they are going to step their first, I will say, interaction with the world in terms of professionals. We have Evanthika Pereira, who is the National President of the NASA India. And I will request all 3 of them to tell me a little bit more about NASA also later. So National Association of the Students of Architecture. Then we have Harrshwardhan Burrande, who is National Secretary at NASA India, and he is also just a graduate, fresh graduate. So it's a very good idea to talk to him from SPA New Delhi. We have Tanuja Sunkara, who is heading the trophies at NASA, and she is at final year at Geetham School of Architecture at Visakhapatnam. Welcome, trio, and thank you so much for agreeing to take this conversation. And at the same time, I'm so glad that we are able to start this new season with some young minds, and some more speakers are lined up, but then again, we go back to our seasoned speakers who have been in the field for 15 to 20 years. You may have come across what we are trying to do in this series, where we are really making an effort to engender. So let us start with the conversation here. When we say engender, we are already talking about really gender balance and not really woman. And that's where it's really great to have quite equally gender balanced speakers today, I will say, in that sense, because most of the time you find males talking about all the matters of built environment. So Thank you so much. We will start with a very simple question to all of you. And let's keep it a disciplined way in the sense of order. But otherwise, you are free to express your ideas and thoughts. My first simple question is, what brought you to architecture? Who influenced you? Or it was just a coincidence that you landed up in architecture? We'll start with Evanthika, then go to Harrshwardhan, and then Tanuja. That will be our order of communication. Thank you so much, Evanthika. Over to you.
Yes. Firstly, thank you so much, Mansee ma'am, for having us for your season 3 kickstart. It's definitely a pleasure for us at the NASA and the Executive Council in particular to be here. So, firstly, with regard to why I joined architecture, definitely it is influenced from where I come from. I come from Goa, and I stay in the part of Goa that is surrounded by mainly heritage homes. So that is what drew me to the profession, to just conserve our heritage, and that's what has even kept me stuck for 4 years now, and eventually graduating from the profession. So it's definitely a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Harshvardhan?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for your warm invitation and our introduction also. Uh, it's it's nice to be here and like initially when Ivantika told me about the conversation also, it's good that we are having a male perspective towards this panel as well. And the reason, coming to your first question, the reason I joined architecture is mostly because I was too also interested in historical context and historical buildings. And I also come from Aurangabad, which also is like, which also has many historical monuments here. But majorly also it was influenced by the experience that the resorts and the hotels that used to give right from the start when I used to be there. So I think that somewhat drew me here in creating spaces.
Wonderful. Tanuja?
Yes, ma'am. Again, thank you so much for having us here because it's quite a new opportunity for us, and it's very different to be on panels as this and then talk about experiences, varied ones. And as fresh people, I think it helps us also to navigate on things and also your views. So for me to join architecture, so I come from Vishakhapatnam. It's a growing town, and my family is mostly has been involved in construction and building. I literally grew up around. So I don't know by when it got influenced, and by 12th I was sure that I'm going to take architecture because I like the aesthetics, the art, and creating the space part of a building, more the emotional side of it. So yeah, that's how I landed up here in architecture.
Wonderful. So in the next round, what I'm going to do is take it a little bit, a timeline understanding, because you will get to know how it was around 35 years ago or 30 years ago when I was of your age. So
Yes.
you will also get a very interesting taste of it. And I'm also keen to learn how it is today in school, because now I'm on the other side in every school. So I would like to understand from you, when you were studying in the school, did you really feel that there is a difference between being a girl or being a boy in the profession? Because when I was studying, we were not really made aware of that. We were just studying. It was just like individuals doing their work. Of course, in my class, girls outnumbered not only in terms of number, but also in terms of work. So I'm just keen to know what it is after 30 years now. What's the architecture schools look like today? Because it looks very different to us as teachers, when I go as a guest or a teacher.
Yes, ma'am. So, at least from where I come from, I'm currently studying in Goa. Just like you, my class is also dominated by a more female population rather than a male population. However, when I look at the senior batches, it was more of a male population. So it is sort of a tangential, or you can say every year the ratio has changed per se. And if I had to look at also from when the college was established till today, even the faculty will speak on the trends, how now it has been shifting. The entire trend of even admissions to the profession has definitely been shifting. So there's a huge paradigm shift that is noticeable. But when you also asked about how we feel about it in class, well, it does not really strike our mind that, okay, yes, I'm a girl studying architecture or I'm a boy studying architecture. But when you step out of college and probably visit a site or you interact with somebody, that's when probably the local laborer will be a little bit stunned, like, okay, are you doing this or is sir coming? You may get questions like that. So that is definitely something. So in college, you won't see such a different mindset, but definitely outside college, there would be.
How about you, Harshwardhan? Do you really see some discussions amongst peer group or between teachers and students when they make you realize being a boy you have extra work, or you see that someone is tamed or someone is appreciated because the person is of different gender? Do you experience some kind of gendered discussions or difference in the classroom?
Uh, like I come from SPA Delhi. So the first of all, the population that is there, let's say 50-50, I almost find an equal population of both the genders coming in. And uh, SPA Delhi is quite open, and I have never experienced any gender-based differentiation or, influence that have been put on early stage of the education, like in first year, second year, third year. But as we go ahead in the senior years, and when we are taught about the subject called professional practice, in that subject is something that some situations we discuss overall situations that may occur in the professional practice, and this gender part is also being touched in our school.
Hmm.
So, of course, the conversations are based upon how women are perceived in the profession, and even we have subjects called history of architecture, where we also look at uh, female architects, who have performed very well and have given a very wonderful projects for us to look at. So of course these conversations are there, but more evidently it comes to more senior years. Though in the college life, we are not discriminated based on our gender. I feel that even girls are doing, like, girls do much more work than us, and they score a lot more marks than boys also. Maybe I'm wrong, but when I went on my internship for my internship
Mhm.
period, there I think the sensitivity towards this gender I have kind of experienced, or at least have seen that it's a different battle for both the genders.
Hmm.
Yeah,
We'll come to that because that will be very interesting to know. That's the first time when you hit the world or society.
yeah.
Tanuja, what was or what is like to be in your class or school, or what kind of conversations on gender?
So again, I wanted to continue what Evanthika started, that yes, even my class is more female dominated than male. Obviously, the discussions of gender equality would be very different. But at the same time, I feel gender for both of, I mean, in terms of how they're navigating through that profession is very different. Of course, in education, we generally do not firsthand experience it, but when we go outside and when we're working, maybe internship is one great perspective to understand where your profession stands or where you are going to stand. So then I think we do really get a firsthand experience. But for me, it's more than gender. I think um, going a level up, it's more about being a person who's bold enough to get a work done. I
Hmm.
think in the long run, when you can get the work done and you give them the credibility for people who are trusting on you, I think the gender somewhere just blurs. So
Okay, very interesting. I'm picking 2 points from where Harshwardhan left us. Two things about studying about women architects. So let me tell you, when we were studying, we never studied about women architects. So we had no clue. And also, I would like to share with you when I started this research and doing my background literature review. I was already a public speaker and going to different colleges and asking students to name 5 women architects. I never got 5 names. Then I had to annoyingly ask this class or my audience that aren't you teachers also architects who are teaching you, because you can easily name 5 architects. So for me, it was also delimiting the very definition of who is an architect, because the way we look at architects is those who only practice architecture. So this is just to share with you. So that point I would like to pick from him and ask you what exactly were you taught? And the second point is about the training program, which both Harshwardhan and Tanuja, you both mentioned about it. So I would like to understand from you, how do you think that this gender aspect came into during training program? Being both, either, I mean, we are not in actually only 2 genders, but right now probably we can talk about only a male and female, because we don't have others here right now. So I mean, what was that you experienced not only on yourself, but probably you observed something happening somewhere. So maybe you can take both these questions, because I'm curious what is taught there. I only knew Didi Contractor and Zaha Hadid was just rising at that time. So for us, we were also not considering our teachers as architects. So who are women architects for you, and what exactly did you get to learn about them?
So, we were taught about the architects right from the Pan Asia, like
Mhm.
from Pakistan, from Sri Lanka, from India, and the works that they contributed. Like for example, works of Revati Kamath,
Mm.
and so we were in, like there was one aspect in third year or second year, but we were touched upon that part where we were talking about it
Wonderful.
in contemporary architecture history, about it. And yeah, of course, when we were touching down this path, my professor, Saptarshi Sanyal, so he was quite adamant on properly going through the subject and looking at the
Absolutely.
and properly touching down the subject of gender, because he was talking about the
Mm.
female architects of the country or of
Mm.
the Indian subcontinent in general.
Mm.
So, of course, that sensitivity was put in, where how did women come from that background? Uh, uh, what challenges were there during that time, and how did they survive it? So, of course, these were, given a chance, but also like when we are hosting a convention at NASA India, it's
Mm.
something that we also want to keep a gender balanced panels everywhere,
Mm. Yes.
like even the keynotes, even the master classes, whatever we are having, we try to look out for that. So I think that sensitivity has been developed from the subjects called history of architecture also.
Okay.
I'm not aware how many other institutes are even touching down that topic, where
Of
we are
course.
talking about women in architecture in the contemporary India or the modern India. But at least in SPL you were taught about it. And
Wonderful.
coming to the aspect of what I experienced in my internship is that my office had almost equal number of ratio of women
Mhm.
also and me also working together. There was no as a disparity or anything that where it was just being male dominant office, but it was equal. But my I always used to question my senior colleagues, like who used to like sit beside me only. It was a studio environment, as to and she was like 5 years elder than me. So I used to ask 5 years senior than me. I used to ask her like, have you experienced any of such things in on site where your
Mm.
gender has been like put on something that they have ignored, or like kind of because of your gender you have experienced any kind of discrimination. So she did mention that she has experienced it, and I also asked her like, what was it it is mostly like the laborer is not looking up to you, or they're like, is any male senior coming, or do you have to listen to you? And then when I asked about how did you go about this, and then she gave a very good answer. It's like sometimes you have to shout, sometimes you have to make them understand that you are heading here and you are going to be the male person. So either they want to call you sir or they want to call you ma'am. You don't care. But you just hope to see that work is getting done. So I think getting that influence on the uneducated class of India is quite important. Uh, this
Wonderful.
has been like what
Yeah.
I have experienced.
Let's hear from Evanthika and Tanuja. How was their training time, and did you really also had the opportunity to learn about gender and architecture in your final years? Because when we studied professional practice, there was no word called gender. So, so at least we have come a long way that there are schools who are teaching about it. How is it? How is it with Evanthika and Tanuja? Go ahead.
Yes, yes, ma'am. So again, as Harsh mentioned, right from the lower years, we've had, again, when it comes to the teaching profession in India today with regard to architecture, again, it's mainly dominated by females, at least in southern India, where I've noticed many institutes. So you won't, firstly, at least my faculty, they won't call it a women architect. They'll just call it an architect. She could
Yes,
be male or female. So
better.
no gender disparity as such noticeable in their tone or way of speaking. But I've had definitely few faculty who definitely planted a seed in our head. So actually, my principal currently, by the name Dr. Leon, once he walked into our class and he definitely saw more female dominant than a male dominant batch. He just came in from SPA actually to our college. So it was a shift from what he usually saw 50-50 to our dominated class by females. And then one thing he planted in our head was that today, even when it comes to studies of architecture, let's speak about the temperature in a room, like the air conditioning. It's always tuned to a male body. There haven't been so many
Absolutely.
tests done on a female body compared to the
You
male body.
touched my heart because I am quarreling almost at every platform I go that this is air condition is masculine.
Yes, because he would just ask, like, are you feeling cold? Are you feeling cold? Then you just know that, yes, actually, the room is not tuned to us, but to just the 4 people, to the probably 5 boys sitting in my class rather than the 45 girls. So that's the scene with architecture in India. So I've had these type of faculty who have definitely pricked a thought in my mind. But then later again, when I went on for my internship, I interned at Abhanara and Lamba Associates, which is a female architect-led firm. And again, the entire firm's culture is only about women power. So what I at least noticed there was definitely not gender disparity, but how bold everything there is, right from the decisions to even the hierarchy of the firm, where the principal architect is female. If there are 2 directors, one of that is a female, one of that is a male, then your senior architect. So everything there was very female dominated. And also, like Harsh mentioned about, if again coming back to site, if they aren't listening to you, you will scream twice the times than
Did
probably an
you
average
go
male
to the
architect.
site during training?
Yes, ma'am. I did visit 2 sites actually. So before that, only the architects will train you. Like, you don't need to think what gender you are. You will just go there. If they don't listen to you, take their case. So that is how the firm trained me for that segment of work-life balance, the work culture as such. So it was great again interning at a firm that is led by a woman. And even when you see that firms are run by, let's say, females, as an intern as such, we hear about a lot of students undergoing the fact that either they're overworked or people categorize it as toxic internships and things like that.
Yes.
But I see a different tone of when a female is leading an architecture firm, because there's usually that small percent of mother need, that mother instinct or whatever you call it. So you'll see that, at least from what I noticed from my entire class, the majority who interned at female run firms of female-led firms,
Your voice is breaking now.
female-led firms definitely also had a difference in terms of being treated at the firm. So yes, these are some of my.
I would
Is it
add here,
okay? I'll just
Evanthika.
correct. Is it still breaking, ma'am? Hello.
No, now it is clear. I would like to add here, being a colleague at a female-led organization probably already creates a conducive environment for you to go and stand
Yes, that's about it, ma'am.
in the field. Also, as when you go as an intern, you may not be harboring a lot of responsibility on your shoulder to really face it directly. Probably it's still not there. But how is it with Tanuja?
I would continue with the part of female leadership because I genuinely feel there's a huge shift when a female is leading because the energy I always felt shifted. So that happened with me in my college years itself. So the first, my dean currently, she got in when I was in my third year. And the college post that, it's a different vibe altogether to be in and to study because we were a COVID batch, and after online courses and having classes online, we came in directly in the second year or at the end of second year. So for us, we missed out maybe at the crucial years of early years in college. So, and the notion would be very different than when you're in college.
Yes.
By that time at second year you're already into academics. So, and I really, for excuse me, for me in external activities, having to doing a lot of things really gives in to hone my skills or have a day running at different things. So college didn't provide me much till maybe my third year. And once my dean got in there, I think her energy or vibe, she's quite a dynamic person as well, Vibhuti Sachdev ma'am. So I think once the college was under leadership, I felt the energy literally shifted. The vibe of how the college works are different. Now they're having a seminar every day or some person external is called out and being given the opportunity for students to interact. There are many events that we get to host. I think that significantly impacted how I understand females in leadership positions, not just in architecture. So I just remember that listening to all of this. And I think these kind of changes really do have an impact on how a student, architect, especially in today's day and age, where we are supposed to be in a position to literally, as I said before, be bold and get the work done. It was almost how Harsh has explained the story of his senior. It's basically that you have to act like the person who previously did the work, and then the blur in between gender disparity that will go away if you can get the work done. I think it just takes courage. And in terms
Yeah,
of internship, not much of a gender disparity or inequality that I personally faced, nothing as such, but I think in sites, of course, because of the people are working and they are, of course, conditioned with a certain way. I think, but in today's day and age, again, it's kind of shifting and changing because there are more women now in architecture who are taking that step. So
I'll pick that line from where you left, Tanuja. There are more women architects. And let me just share with all of you that even the initial days when I used to go on the field, I was almost invisible to everyone. Having a partner who is also architect, so you are either bhabhi or you just sit in a sofa and rest will be taken care of. And then slowly it was when your site people and your clients come to know that, oh, you also an architect, you are already tagged as sir, you know then came the stage of ma'am. So yes, even the society will take its own sweet time to accept women architects. And also the fact that as you are all talking about on site, there is a general acceptance and about looking at the way men would like to navigate the projects and all. Personally, I am fearing the fact in this that uh, and we can see it at many points, and we are discussing on many a times that it may be that women are trying to ape men on the side to be accepted. That is the threat I am personally concerned about. and in the long run. So how to really engender in a sense that women are seen as women leaders or women architects, and very nicely pointed by all three of you, it is just architects. Women or men is has to go away. There should not be any gendered way of looking at it. But then I think that gender lens has to first go from our side, of means by the profession, before it goes out of the people's side. And I would like to share with you that even though now, as of today, the gender balance is there in schools and education, in architecture, when you look at the way things unfold in the later years of lives of women, um, it is a concern. Even I have seen that raised at IIA platforms, at COA platforms, that not many women are eventually seen in the scene. You know what I mean? So where do they disappear in terms of their profession? Then when you go deeper, you may find that many women are turning into education who are not really seen as women architects. That's where I had concern why they are not. So delimiting the very definition of architecture from practice to other areas. Then I am also aware that many women are also diversifying their work, or I call it again delimiting the definition of architecture, in the sense some people are working on human rights. Myself, I work on water. There are other people who are working on nature. There are other people who are working on other aspects of it, or let's say they do interior design, some of them. So this diversification can be seen in many women architects. So I'm just trying to understand from you, from your own college, when you see your faculty members, what kind of proportion are you seeing in your college? And do you see that their interests are men and women? Maybe you can take women as your case studies because we are discussing them. What kind of specialization do you think your women teachers are really taking up in their education? And does it also fall under the building construction, like let's say, or maybe are they teaching construction related projects, or they are taking up more other studios or other theory subjects which has not much to do with construction? And is there some kind of distinction you can recall that yes, women teachers are teaching this kind of courses more, male teachers are teaching that kind of courses more? Do you see something like that, or did you not make any notice of it? If you not, that's no problem at all. What I'm trying to understand from you, where are the women architects? Are they only confined to teaching eventually, or some of them they practice, maybe some are known, some are not known, but where are the rest of the people? And what kind of interest area they follow? I'm asking this question because I am not considered architect. Let me tell you that, because I practice water. And I have been fighting a battle for last 20 years now that water is part of architecture. If you recall, I also went to NASA to talk about water and architecture. And water as a building material is not taught. Water as an ecosystem is not taught in architecture. I'm just giving you an idea how diversification, maybe women have taken those areas based on their interest area, or maybe because of no choice, whatever it may be. But do you notice your women teachers having those extra niche kind of specialization or interest, and they're taking those courses up, or when they're interacting with you, they show some extra angle of society? Did you get my question point? Yeah, we start with Evanthika. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. So with regard to teaching, like let's look at teaching as such. In my college, I have had more building construction teachers who happen to happen to be males actually. Before this question of yours, I hadn't really thought so deeply about what and why and how. But when I look at it now, yes, most of my theory subjects are taught by female architects. My design studios, there is always a 50-50 balance.
Yes.
Yes. But in terms of, let's pick one subject like building construction, it's always been taught by a male architect.
And probably plumbing services, In our time, services, survey, building construction were all taught by men architects,
So
even
plumbing
urban
wise
design.
and sorry to cut.
So go ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
plumbing wise and everything, it's been taught by a female architect, but just the building construction. So, and also when you asked where do the female architects go, so I would like to rewind it back to from the student age till it ends. Like since you mentioned also the Council of Architecture and Indian Institute of Architects. So when it comes to NASA India, this is something that is been visible also in our history of 67 years. So when we speak about the ratio of how many, so NASA's hierarchy is where we have two leaders from each college who come and represent the college in NASA at GBMs and conventions, etc., etc. So in the past, say 30, 40 years ago, it was mainly dominated by males because it includes travel, it includes being away from your home or being away from your state for a few days at large. So we've seen this shift where it used to be only males, including the NASA and their councils. So it's literally been the past, in the 55th year of NASA India, we had our first female president. So for NASA, it took 55 years to have a female president. And in between, I'm sure even the executive council or the zonal council was always dominated by male council members. Even today, but proudly we can say post that currently we're on the 67th year of NASA. So for now, in my current council, we have a 50-50 share of the council posts. So that has been a huge paradigm shift from when it started till now.
Absolutely.
And definitely having this 50-50 ratio does help even the association at large, because as Tanuja was mentioning about the different energies each person brings to the table. So now when we take this back to the profession, post the BArch degree, or you'll have many females also doing the master's degree, but post the master's degree, some people choose to settle down in life, as they call it, where they don't continue practicing as such, or probably they get married and then life happens, as they call it. But our society is built in such a way where at the end of the day, the male has to be the bread bringer. So sometimes this also allows this subconscious ability to say that, okay, I can take a break if I have to. So this is what I've seen in many female architects who I've personally known, who sometimes choose not to practice because they've chosen the other side of life. Whereas the other side, who have also done their masters and who go on to also hold PhDs, many of them get into academia. Today, most of our HODs in India also are females. And even we speak about people leaving the country or migrating abroad, I've seen a lot of female architects also do that, because I feel that the gender disparity they feel outside isn't much felt, when they're probably, abroad compared to practicing in India. So as of now, this is what I've actually noticed in the field for the past
Wonderful.
4 to 5 years.
Interesting. Yes, Harshwardhan, what is your take on this?
So, of course, coming to the teaching part, design studios, we have seen 50-50 share. And in design studios also, like initially we do not think about all of the gender related aspects, but the gender related aspects are also even taught in the
Yes,
while
now I
designing.
do see that engendering public spaces, women in public spaces,
Yeah.
children in public spaces.
And such topics have always been, put on us, right, when we started to design public buildings. So to think about all of this, coming to the practical subjects like building construction, and so in subjects like these, what I have noticed is that we have 50% of professors that are full-time professors of the college, and then others are visiting faculties. And the visiting faculties were practicing architects, and at least in the by third year, fourth year, I've seen many visiting faculties to be female architects. So I have seen the practicing architects also that have been female. It's not like right, it's like an alienated idea for us to not see a women that is practicing architecture. And I think that is also kind of a very good motivation for the female population of the college, because they have seen and they're learning from female architects who are practicing in the profession. So I think that is one of the good aspects that I've seen, right from the subjects of building construction and even and maybe in some service related, there might be domination of male, but most of the times I have not noticed that there is a very huge gender disparity. There has
Yes.
always been one female or one or two males, some kind of
Yes.
representation has been there. But even
Yes.
I had not observed this until now. But maybe that's what like I have learned from the practicing women architects also. So maybe that never actually bothered that much to us, or like,
Yeah, we're probably not even taking note of it. And I
yeah,
think that is also walking towards making the profession genderless, like
yeah,
just architect. We have to walk towards that. I mean, I would like to live a day then when we are not talking about gender. But having gone through a lot of these issues, I think these kind of conversations become extremely important, especially for your generation and the generation to arrive. Tanuja, what is your take on this? I mean, from your college and the way you look at it.
Yeah, even I had to go back and just see which
Rewind,
subject was taught by who and all. But yeah, building construction, even I noticed that it's a bit, I've had more male faculty, but in terms of design studios, there's always equal. We've had
Hmm.
female visiting professors who are there, and there are female lecturers who are there again in the studio as well. So there's no disparity in terms of design. And there's one more thing that you mentioned, ma'am, about women being niche specific, maybe. Yeah, that maybe I did observe in my college, maybe sustainability or urban design. But
Hmm.
specifically, yeah, building construction has been a little bit maybe more male lecturer oriented, but I think it will be changing in times, because now we've come far for design studios to be in, there's no difference that you notice there. And then even between having specialization, because today's day and age is about specialization. So when there's no
Yes.
discussion or difference in with respect to gender there, I'm sure we'll get there even with the building construction concept. So yeah.
Absolutely. And let me ask a tricky question here, very quick, short answer. Okay. Imagine we know our cities are screwed, right? I mean, we are not really doing so sustainable development cities, or sustainability is far from reach. And if you look at the trajectory of dominance of the profession, now I'm talking only of the profession, not from the education side. It has been male architects dominating the profession. So the tricky question for you is, do you think cities and neighborhoods and buildings would have been a little bit different if the profession practice part was gender balance, what it will be? So equal number of famous women architects and famous male architects. And the second part of it, which is tricky, imagine this profession was completely dominated by women, and there were just few male architects here and there in the country. How would cities, neighborhoods, this is just a hypothetical situation, but we don't want to reach the second part. We are actually aiming for the first part where there is gender balance. But we can envisage what are the difference which our cities would have seen, which we don't see right now. This is just an imagination question, okay? Over to you,
Yes, ma'am.
Evanthika.
Okay. So, firstly, that is what we would call an ideal world where everything
We
is,
should dream of it to achieve at least 50% of it.
yes, definitely. So, as far as today's urban issues are concerned, some things that would quickly come to my mind would firstly be like one of Jane Jacobs' popular theories, eyes on the
Yes.
street. And definitely the way as to, this would probably be like a very strict bylaw. One couldn't um, just cross over. It would have definitely been ingrained in all our laws, because as ladies in India, we know how it gets post 6 p.m. or post the sun sets. And
Mm.
maybe we've not had incidents happen to us on a personal level, but if you open any local daily today, the headline on average of 7 days of a week, 5 days in the week, you'll always have either rape or something happen to somebody. So one would definitely be that. And secondly, even today in urban India, where you have metros linking from point A to point B, the last mile issue, where one has to get off and then probably a deserted metro station or a railway station per se. So I'm sure these sort of issues wouldn't be issues towards decision making. Yes.
Okay, Harshwardhan, both the questions. You may pick to answer both or even one.
Yeah, I think as Tanuja has mentioned, a different energy is brought. I think the environment, the built environment, of course, would be is something I feel the feminine energy is quite caregiving and nurturing. I think that would have reflected in our built society as well. Uh, and but coming to the main question that we are always talking about in throughout this conversation, I think the main issue is also about the education systems of India. Not system, but just the societal education also. I feel like at least the women disparity or whatever the gender disparity that we see is at least to an extent lesser than the parts of the three tier or two tier cities or even the rural parts of India where we every day is a struggle for a women to prove their existence. And I think that level of education or awareness amongst people should be put forward, and that is the main, I think, mm, a drawback I feel, because an experience of being a women architect in Delhi versus a women
Yes,
architect being in rural
absolutely.
India, it's quite different.
Mm.
Like, so I think the cities also influence whether you would take up to practice the profession or choose an alternative or diverse factors uh, uh, fields. So yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Because I wish to pick something which Evanthika has earlier mentioned, and I thought I will ask it now. That NASA took 55 years to have its first female president, and slowly things are changing. And today you stand in a very comfortable situation where the team is a gender balanced team. And you already mentioned the beauty of having a gender balanced team with diverse ideas and things like that. When you are percolating this whole idea into the student group, because NASA event happens every year, and do you think perceptional change in the leadership, that there is more acceptance and all? Let me just give you background of it. Where when I was in fourth year, we had NASA at Bhopal, where I was studying, and I was general secretary, taking care of the event, and it was a big mess, of course, because NASA's are never easy events. But I mean, because you are already there probably a year or two beforehand, and then you reach this stage, so it's a round of leaderships. How is the peer group really having this acceptance of having women leaders? And I know that it is more collaborative decision making at NASA. Also, I see your zonal meetings happening here and there. Do you think that is somehow subconsciously also percolating into the peer group, that yes, the leadership can be dominated also, but at the same time gender balance, and then it is okay to take ideas and thoughts from everyone? And when you are having those events in during the event, the sub events during the events, how do you ensure that people are really having that respect for each other, in terms of, you people are position holders, so somebody has to take the final call after having a meeting. So how does the gender dynamics works in NASA? I mean, what kind of meetings you have, and how does it go? Maybe you can give some example, because I have no clue how it works now.
Okay, so I would like to answer this first.
Sure.
So, what I have experienced or anything is that once you see a person doing that job, that perception is already broken, and
Yes.
we have seen like when I was like 2 years back, we also had a female president. This year also we have female president. So, and there had been a lot of zonal presidents who have been female.
Yes.
In fact, Tanuja, where she was a zonal president before, and the zone that she was leading, and she had seen continuously female presidents who were zonal presidents. So I think there is like an acceptance, and there is no way like a scene where we think about this also ki a woman is leading, or a question
Mhm.
like that arises in any of
Definitely,
the
there is a change then in 30
yeah, so there
years.
is a change in that. And in fact, like even the position that I am holding, that is at headquarters, the national
Hmm.
secretary. So even we had in last 9 years, we did not had a female secretary. So we are
Hmm.
hoping the next two lineups will be female because we have the elections
You
that are
mean your next round?
yeah, yeah, the successors are female. The current
Hmm.
treasurer will become the secretary, and she is a female, and even her successor is also female. So I think that perception is breaking, and overall perception I think is. I feel that women leaders are getting in more acceptance. It's becoming normalized the way it should have always been. And we are seeing it not only in just our NASA association, but also in our education system. I think many of the leaders at colleges, at the institutions,
Hmm.
the HODs, the deans, principals are females. So I think that perception also, I think the leadership coming from that direction is also, I think that is also broken for the masses, the students also. That is what I feel.
Evanthika?
Yes, ma'am. So, firstly, when I said that it took NASA 55 years to have a first female president, what I mean by that is the fact that it's not only the association that entertained or got on board a female president, it is because also probably her parents or the entire system around it. So, like I was mentioning, one needs to travel, and there's so much along with just being a leader at NASA, right? And this is in
Yes.
any association, in any domain. To be a leader, you need to be breaking barriers of your otherwise rules at home. And this has happened because of our society become more progressive slowly. So probably in 1957, when we were just established, 10 years post independence, our society was at some level. So I would say the amount of leaders in our association is just a reflection of how society has progressed over the past 67 years in India per se. So
Yes.
coming to the fact that how does decision making occur? Rightly, as Harsh mentioned, internally we have never thought of, oh, a female is saying this or a male is saying this. We would just judge on whether it's making sense or not. And again, particularly me, when I took up positions at NASA India, not within the association, but I've noticed when I go somewhere outside, maybe to a college or anything like that, you'll be called, oh, female president. Like that'll always be the first thing, like, oh, female president of
That's a
NASA.
remark, general remark.
Yeah,
No.
general remark. You
So
won't be
these are
called, oh,
subtleties,
president.
huh? By the way, these
Yeah,
are the subtleties.
very true. And this is not only for males, this is also from females, from female
Yes.
HODs. It's all like, oh, female president. Or, and then you have to correct, like, no, it's just president. You don't have to add a gender to it. So also many a times, if you notice leadership position nomenclature as such, you'll have chairman or you'll have, it's always
Even
ending with
I called it in Hindi, huh? Rashtrapati. I wrote an article.
okay.
We change that as because it was earlier assumed that it will be Rashtrapati all the time.
Hmm.
So how
Yes.
do you? What will be the new word now for president? Is a gender neutral word, but
Yes.
Rashtrapati is not a gender neutral word. So like chairman, now it is
Yes.
slowly
Very
changing to
true.
chairperson.
Exactly. So one thing about NASA's posts are also that everything is gender neutral. Also,
Hmm.
our constitution, for example, many years ago, it was always like if he does
He's
so and so. So we had a president who came into play 10 years ago who changed the entire sort of constitution and made it gender neutral. So it's always a he, she,
very nice.
and
Was
we need
it
to go
he or
forward.
she? Was it he or she
It was a he
who brought
actually.
this reform?
It was a he.
Very nice.
Yes. So we are proud to be council members who have had that, sort of, let's say, upbringing in the association itself that is very gender neutral.
Tanuja, what it is to hold the leadership position and how do dynamics work? What is your experience? I mean, that's what we are trying to capture.
So in terms of leadership, one of my perspective was because previously and even leadership positions in general people are expected to take tough decisions. It's expected that a man would be taking better tough decisions when the situation is there. And maybe I would say because women were not given opportunities more to prove their caliber, for that this notion has been led, and today is where we are. But again, today when women are handling leadership positions, they also bring certain aspect which is sensibility towards a job role that often changes a lot of dynamics in what they are doing or how they are leading a certain position that they've been given. So I think that quite makes a difference. And women today are also proving that they can take tough decisions and they will take tough decisions because society as a whole has changed, evolved a lot. And there are many there are many things that can stop, and there things that would stop. Per se, it's as simple as something Evanthika mentioned, 6 p.m. curfew after that was very common before.
Girls hostel get inside at 6 p.m. I remember in my case. In fact, I had a very strange experience in undergraduate.
Yes, and those simple things do matter, but with the times that we are evolving with, I think even the society, at least the Taiwan cities, the cosmopolitans and all, they're becoming more gender inclusive, and it's always a fight or a justice or an ask for equality more than a disparity either way. So I think leadership in that way has evolved so much because women today find it better, the opportunities are more, and for them to go and navigate, for them, the path is much better than people who've done before. I think for women who were in the earlier times, it would have been even more difficult. Just taking NASA India as an example, being a leader in the council, again, navigating a lot of people, also being constantly available, have to travel back and forth, it would be very difficult maybe 10 years down the lane. So I would credit women who were before, who were handling leadership, and they did try and pave paths. They've did much better work. And I think today, if we follow and do better, I think we have better opportunities today. And that is definitely getting more women in. At least wherever I've seen, it's more inclusive. So
I think, yeah, good. Yeah, because when we are having this conversation, actually, it's not about a competition between men and women. That is something which we have to get rid of
very
because for a
common.
long time. Yes.
Sorry.
Pardon?
This is a very common notion that when
Yes.
we talk about feminism or equality, it's like, okay, we want to go above men. No, it's an
No, it's not
opportunity
like that.
in terms of
That is a misinterpretation and narrow understanding of feministic values. But the thing is, whenever we talk about gender, the natural conversation moves to women. But whereas the gender word itself is gender neutral, but not many people talk about men, you know. So yeah, that is something more scholarly or scientific work, discourse, which we are not engaging right now. But I want to bring to your notice and just try to understand from you, have you noticed it or not? When we look at our great masters of the past, many of them globally and nationally, uh, and I found out, by the way, when I started doing this research, that many well-known male architects, first of all, there are not many male architects who are, female architects who are well written and documented. I mean, we can only talk about Zaha Hadid and few more, just few more. because I run this workshop on engendering architecture. So I am also, I also took time to learn about all those women, and then learning from Madhvi Desai's book on women architects. So just to understand from you, did you really noticed it during, or it was just like because the way you are raised at home, the way you got educated, you didn't really take a note of it, that most of the master architects that we talk about happen to be male? And what you may have not noticed, or I'm curious to know, did you notice or not? Because I also noticed it much late in my life when I started doing this research, that their counterparts, their background, support, the foundation of their office were many a times female, whose names most of the time we don't know. Do you realize this, or did you not notice it at all? Because on this platform, we may not name them, but it is important to notice, because it has been like this in history, that most of the male architects who are famous, their background support are females. Do you notice it? Or do you have any example? Because not noticing itself is an issue, that we are not acknowledging their presence. I was shocked earlier when I started doing this study. Do you know any such well-known architects where background or the name is held by an office which is majorly run by females?
I've not particularly noticed the background part of it, but I would agree saying that the female architects are not documented. Of course, all the ones, the big
And
names.
that's the reason we are doing, by the way, document, at least in this research project, we have a target of documenting 100 female architects who have done exemplary work. So we are taking that, and this is like a breather for us to have you all, because so that we can see how future architects are going to be, and how do you look at women architects. That's why we are having this conversation. Have you noticed anything like this, Evanthika?
So it's definitely noticeable, ma'am, if we go Google even top 10 architects of the world. Like if suppose 10 architects come, probably the ratio will be quite skewed in terms of numbers. But I don't think I have enough data to pinpoint which architect has done this at large. But I've definitely noticed it.
Okay, wonderful. Harshwardhan, what's your observation?
I
Or you did not
actually
take note of it?
Yeah, I actually did not take note of it until like when I became the council member, and when we used to decide our lineup for our conventions, our events, and who are we going to call, etc. And that time we started to notice, oh, there is actually quite less number of very well-known female architects out there, and our majorly our whoever we're inviting also majorly were becoming as a male dominant. So we try to balance it out later, but then that idea also, I think that time was the first time I noticed about this, and I'm not sure like whether women have any particular architect whose entire force have been women, but I'm very sure that many offices still run where women are behind the scenes in the background. They're working in the offices. There are quite number of female architects that are there. Maybe the leadership might be of a male architect, but it's quite evident that women are there in the profession. At least,
Yeah, what?
yeah.
Yes, absolutely. One thing is that having women architects in the office as by number, but I have also noticed that they are also leading the office. But then you have a mask, who may be the male. That's my experience. I want to come back to a point where Ivantika had a very interesting observation, and I want to relate it with when we started this research. That time I had actually looked through all the schools and colleges of India, and it was only 10% of women contribution as principal or HOD or director, whatever, every schools have different names, were women. So I mean, we'll have to look through really council's database if we have really reached a 50-50 in leading, because for me that was already a question mark, that actually male female teaching staff are all were almost equal, but then the highest position in the school was only 10%. So I hope it has moved to a bigger percentage share in terms of leadership, HOD or dean. But I'm sure the many schools and colleges you reach out now through NASA, you may be taking note of it. And I really like the point that when you are now sorting out, finding speakers, Evanthika, you may recall that I have also pinpointed you few times that why all males and where are the females and all, and you had responded it gracefully. And yes, it is a serious concern that women are not enough documented and disseminated, and we are trying to also understand why. And of course, through this series, we are also trying to document and disseminate their work. But just to understand from you, when you are writing to schools and colleges, do you really think that we have also reached that stage that there are more number of HODs and directors and principals than 10% at least, if not 50%? What's your understanding, Evanthika?
So you speak about, ma'am, so your question is about the ratio of how many females are leading our
Leaders.
colleges in India.
Yes.
There is actually a big percentage of colleges being run by females more than males. And
Okay.
again, now this ratio may differ state to state.
Yes,
if
indeed.
I speak about like Southern
Yes.
India per se, it's being run mainly by female HODs or directors or principals. Even if I speak about Western India, it is being run mainly by female leaders.
Yeah, interesting. Because what we have today on this platform is a very good representation from North, from East and West. Because of three of you, we are missing the South part. But very well put. Let me just move on to, and we will also try to start, wrapping up the session and have just very simple questions from here on. Because when we talk about the feministic values or talking about engendering the profession, first of all, I'm also curious to understand from you, do you consider your women teaching architects as architects? Because that was also for me the starting point of this research, because the number count becomes very skewed when we only look at architects who are practicing architects. So where are the women? Half of the answer was already solved in my head, because most of the women end up teaching. So so my question to you is in this sense, that when we are looking at future, how do you think the entire profession, including the education, can really redefine who are really architects? Why do we only define architects as who only design and build buildings? What is your take on how can we redefine who are architects? Someone who does what. So it's a very simple question, because I know the way education, even till date, it is really focusing on architects to be practicing architects. And we somehow, we pretend, or we don't take notice of the teachers who are teaching as architects. Teachers are considered teachers, not architects. But anyone who has an architecture degree should be architect, So what will be your take on redefining who is an architect? So this is a question for all three of you. How should you redefine so that the number that looks very skewed may look much better?
Would any of you like to go first?
Okay, maybe it's a difficult question, but we'll take it very simple ways. How do you see architects from there? So what will be, this will be probably my last question for the day, and we can close it up. So what will be your message to your younger generation? Because I'm sure you see a serious change now. Now generations are changing in 5 years than earlier time. That when people enter architecture, first of all, not many people know about architecture. So it has two parts. Why people should join architecture. So in a way, we invite more joinees. But then what are some simple things that people can keep in mind to help move towards a gender neutral practice, profession, education, whatever you can talk about, maybe we take the same sequence. Yeah, Evanthika.
Yes. So, firstly, if it is a note to somebody who's not into architecture, I would definitely recommend this field. Uh, One, because it is now there are two aspects to it. Firstly, you need to be ready to dedicate 5 years of your life to it, but the 5 years will definitely be it wouldn't be monotonous. Like we know the curriculum is structured in such a way that every semester there is something new or the other that you didn't anticipate. So it is a thrill to be in the course, definitely. And secondly, I look at architecture as a way, as a mechanism to change society. If you're somebody who wants to definitely add a dent to it, because today an architect can sit, probably do a master's degree in urban design, definitely sit and change how a city works. If you wanted to be any other professional, maybe a doctor or a lawyer or engineer per se, you have very case to case basis, which could be one to one impact. Definitely, you can impact a lot. But I'm saying from an architect's level, you're impacting city level decisions, or even more minute. So I feel if you want to be an impact maker, I feel architecture is the best field to be in. Definitely, it comes with its layers of pay scale, and those are all issues I think for another day. But I think you can then come into the field and try to make a change if you find any errors within the field.
And what is your message to really enter the first year, and how do you make them gender blind or genderless? What will be your message for them? I mean, very tricky words, huh? Gender blind or genderless, genderless, gender
First,
neutral.
yeah, firstly, if I'm speaking to a generation after me, something that's really good about the generations after me, like what we call Gen Z and Gen Alpha per se, where the students or the sort of people who are so exposed to the internet today don't really have that mentality as far as people probably 5 or 10 years senior to them would have. So I
Okay.
don't think I would have to shape or tell them so much to shape their thought process to think that okay, you don't need to be gender biased. But I mean, from the conviction I have, I'm sure that the generations coming in don't need to be told on how to be gender blind, at least, ma'am.
Okay, wonderful. I mean, that's quite optimistic, and also it gives me hope as well. When I look at, like, now I'm talking about 35 years, so 30 years of my own life, and then 5 more years to come from here. So, Harshwardhan? Yeah.
Yeah, personally, I've found architecture very transformative. Like the education of architecture, very transformative. I've learned so many other aspects, not only just academically, but also of life through it, because you are made sensitive about so many topics like society, culture, then even climate change. All those topics have been, something that we do require on daily basis, something that we do require to think about making any decisions in life. So I think overall this has like taught me a lot, and I feel ki to the ones who wants to join architecture, of course, that architecture is going to shape you and create a very good citizen, hopefully, of an India or any country that you are practicing it. And majorly, if you feel that you are a creative and can create something, it's not just buildings that you can create here. You can create lot many other things, and that field is quite open. Architecture in general is quite open. So
So,
that will
your
be my
message? Yeah.
and to make it gender neutral or gender blind, um, I'm also convinced with Evanthika. Evanthika mentioned that the coming generation is quite who is exposed to internet and is quite uh, modern when they're thinking about how they look at gender specifically. It's just that the rural parts or the upbringing that they are facing at home, I think that part also needs to be changed somewhere, because we might very casually, hear like any of your relative talking to your sister that ki tumse na ho payega and you can't do it. But I think
Hmm.
that's where you need to step up, and that's where you need to start changing.
Hmm.
Even mentioning all of these things right at home. So I think
Hmm.
that by the time you come to college, your morals, your principles, your something that has been formed completely. I think things need to be changed at very grassroots, very right from your home. The way you talk, the way you casually just mention about gender, either through now there's a trend called dark humor, etc. But I think somewhere it needs to be treated as humor only and not uh, an ideology to follow throughout the life. So
Wonderful. Thank
yeah.
you. Yes, Tanuja.
In terms of architecture as education, there's a lot of variety that is going on, and that's the reason we call architecture schools, because there's history, we're taught entrepreneurship. Again, there's professional code and conduct. We have maybe a math subject in the first year. So there's a lot of things that are going on. As a course, I think it's pretty holistic for a person who definitely wants to be a path breaker. That is one aspect which I even considered when I was getting into the course, because there's no one way of doing architecture. There are multiple ways, and every day someone is doing something new. I think this is a very flexible and moldable kind of a course in that aspect. Architecture is very flexible also for gender. And I think
Hmm.
we as architects are in a much better position, to be honest, with respect to gender equality. But of course,
Yes.
there's always a goal to reach. And I think
Yes.
in terms of gender equality with the coming generations, it's a very different language now. There's not much difference that people growing up are seeing between their mother and father, or someone
Hmm.
a male and a female. So I think they've not seen any difference. So for them, there's nothing for them that they have to change. So I'll agree that future generations did not see that kind of a difference. So it's going to be very normal. It's for them, gender equality has always been there. So I think for them to live in that notion and then continue further, I think we'll reach there where, we don't need to specifically talk about gender inequality.
Wonderful. I think one of the things which I learned from this conversation is the very fact if we can actually redefine who is an architect and what architecture entails, will already be very gender inclusive in terms of who all are architects and what they are doing. And I think NASA itself is doing its bit by making a conscious choice to invite, to organize the events in more gender balanced way. But maybe to expedite the process, I can just close with this request that maybe you can make it that extra step or effort to have for few years a discourse and a discussion and debate on why gender matters and should gender matter, something like this in future of your NASA, just to make sure that people are talking about it. The thing is that if we are not having the conversation, we are not moving further. If we
Yeah.
have the conversation, we know that we are, where do we stand, and are we moving further or not. So this is just a humble request to all of you. And I think first of all, my big apology for the hacker, and we have to complain about it, but there is nothing that can be done from our end at this point. But I would like to take this moment to thank Evanthika Pereira, Harrshwardhan Burrande, and Tanuja Sunkara to really find out time and have this candid conversation and open your heart. And if you have any questions for me, this is the time you may ask, or we may call it off for the day. And we can have many more conversations in the days to come. And I do look forward to having any kind of workshop on this issue, whether through NASA or whether through some other platforms, as an attempt to really engender the profession, as we call it, in this whole research on women in architecture. I would love to have a series on men in architecture, but probably I will encourage someone else to do that because I'm still only halfway through in my research. So
Yeah.
the call is open for you if you have any small, sweet, strong question for me. Otherwise, we can call it off.
Uh,
One more thing, ma'am, since you had asked for advice for somebody joining architecture, one more thing I would suggest would be to try and strive to become a leader in NASA India. for an architecture student, because that is another facet that helps change your trajectory, maybe with regard to your mindset or the profession. Again, not endorsing it because I am currently the president, but endorsing it because on behalf of my council and the 350 college leaders I have, because it definitely has, first of all, gotten us to another world where our perspective has changed on many things. I wouldn't say a world of a difference, but definitely these few attempts, like even this meeting we're currently having, I wouldn't have it otherwise. Or
Yes.
even this discussion we're having. So I feel that try to get yourself involved as much as you can, apart from your college activities, for the betterment of our community as a whole.
Absolutely. The fact that we have a big task on hand, that the profession itself is not well known in the society, that itself is a mammoth task we have in hand. But, I think I will request all of you to keep some important attributes of a good leadership. I mean, I think that is extremely important, and that can be also inculcated through NASA events, which is who is a leader. How do we really think that, what are the leadership traits? First of all, maybe a person who is inclusive, humble, compassionate. There are many traits of it, but then a very good public speaker, and also someone who can handhold everybody to bring along all of us together. I think these are extremely important. So in NASA, you may also take these unconventional discussions, moving beyond design and talking about these simple aspects of life, because you will see that not many of architecture profession go into bureaucracy. They don't go into political field. They don't go into other local leadership field. And so that is where redefining architect and redefining architecture becomes a kind of a very important responsibility the student association has, because it will also give them larger scope. For people like me, it took me 15 years to find out a way that water itself is part of architecture, where the profession still does not consider water as part of architecture. I mean, the education profession both is still not including water as an architecture. So we can actually open this Pandora box through NASA and tell about the diversity of the education, but also at the same time, tell them the scope where you can move beyond building design and do a lot of other things. Because after all, I would personally wish that we don't call it architecture, but design of the built environment. Anything that involves built environment for me is architecture. So I think if this notion in spirit can be conveyed through NASA, I think that will be a very good leadership contribution. So students in future will not be, caged of looking at the profession only through buildings. Somebody can look at birds, somebody can look at fishes, insects, bees. Why not? And why they are not architecture? I think that's the thing which we have to give them the confidence that. And I think the education itself holds that beauty that we can look at life and the city through 360 degrees. It's just that how it can be inculcated through. But leadership, yes, I think we should have more leadership workshops at college level, because I think we are missing that, because we get so busy making our own career and own livelihood, that we somehow tend to miss the fact that we have a huge contribution to make in the society, and maybe may bring a lot of changes if we get a step into leadership roles. And I do see that NASA leadership can be a stepping stone to move towards other leaderships in any sector. It doesn't have to be building sector alone, but any sector. So that is my take on it. I hope it works for you. And I do hope that you really look at life and the profession very differently from the gendered lens, and you explore many, many ways to experiment and do architecture and not confine yourself to only building buildings. Building is merely a very tiny part of the overall built environment. And we have not been doing so well in building buildings. So why not explore something more beyond the buildings? Thank you so much, all three of you. Please take care
Thank
of
you, ma'am.
yourself.
Thank
And
you,
we'll
ma'am.
see each other
Thank you so
soon.
much, ma'am.
Bye-bye.
Definitely, ma'am. Take
I
care.
would actually
Bye-bye. Go ahead,
add
Harsh.
something.
Please go ahead.
So at NASA India also gender is a very sensitive topic that we always try to address. So we established NASA India Research Cell in which we
Yes,
execute research papers, and in
very
fact
nice.
the very first attempt towards research we have picked up on this topic itself. The research paper was completed also on it about gender in architecture.
Wow, this
And
is a big leap.
yeah, so we were able to complete it, and that happened in last 2 years. That's 3 years. So it's a topic that we are also trying to make our students sensitive about, and in our conventions, in our events, whatever we do, such topics we are taking,
Wonderful.
putting forward to them. And this time, like even the leadership is something that we really want our students to be leaders for tomorrow. So whenever we have a general body meetings with all these leaders coming in, we keep workshops for them. We invite
Yes,
architects to talk about leaderships, and that builds, because I personally believe that architects with so much knowledge, they can impact policy making a lot, because
absolutely.
they are
Absolutely.
the ones who are surrounded with with all these ideas and beliefs that what requires for a human to sustain in life or in world. And I think architects can be really good policy makers, but that arena is also so underexplored and not even talked about. So these are the conversations we engage, and I personally want to thank you for
Thank
involving
you.
me also in the panel because I've never noticed so many things before. I have noticed it right now. I have learned a lot about this gender equality. I think there were a lot of other things that I did not notice, but I think this conversation, we very rarely sit in conversations like this for 2 hours, extensively talking about it. Maybe
Absolutely.
we talk about it casually, but we never
Yes, that's the
extensively
thing.
sit about it. So it was a great learning experience for me, and thank you so much for
Thank you.
having us. So yeah.
So, yeah, thank you so much, because I already see a change. 2 years ago, there was an architecture student, Ria Nath, who studied my life through her final year project, but then she was also denied to take it up as a thesis project. So hopefully in architecture schools, we move beyond buildings and start doing research, and NASA can be a good way to find out in every school that research becomes integral part of design, or architecture as we call it.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so
Thank you
much.
very much, ma'am,
Thank you
Thank
for
so
you.
much.
coming
Take
and
care.
for having
Bye
us on
bye.
board. It's our
Bye.
pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks. Take care and see you all soon. Bye bye.
Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
Bye.
Bye.
thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Bye.